You're listening to the New World to Go podcast with your hosts, Redbyrd and BDLG.
Hello and welcome to another episode of New World to Go. I'm your host, Redbyrd, and with me is BDLG. Bordy, we got a new update to the game, Into the Void. We're going to talk a little bit about that today. But first, thank you guys so much for your 5-star ratings and reviews this week. We really appreciate it. Don't forget to leave those. They really do help the podcast out by making us more visible to people on all the podcasting platforms. So we really appreciate those. And then also, if you're watching on YouTube, hit that subscription button, the notification bell for more New World content like this. We're in a vibe, or we're in a rhythm over there on YouTube. So if you haven't checked recently, we're back to putting out videos. Had a little bit of a hiatus, as the transition to full-time was happening, but we're back. Bordy, you ready to hop in here, dude?
Yeah, man, I am.
All right, let's hop in here with the news. All right, so of course we did get the update. That's our main topic for today, so we'll talk about that a lot later. One of the recent changes that happened in the update that no one was aware about, they weren't in the patch notes, was the shadow changes to the points of interest in New World. Now, this is kind of one of the things that got pretty mixed reviews, maybe even negative reviews because of, number one, it wasn't put in the patch notes at all. Number two, it's put a lot of damper on a lot of people's plans to farm out in-game gear. So, Bordy, why don't you tell us a little bit about the changes to the elite POIs?
Yeah, so the changes they made were kind of shadow changes to these places, man. So if you guys don't know already, what they did is they came in and they increased the difficulty for these elite POI areas. So basically, I think the idea, or their idea, the premise behind this is that they don't really want those areas to get zerged down. Because what was happening before, Red, we were going in there with 40 people sometimes just to farm the elite chest and the elite mobs to get our watermark up. And that's what everyone was doing across the entire game, right? It was happening on every server. All the companies are going over there and just farming these places and zerging them down, when in reality, they're really meant for like 5-man groups, right? So what they did is they increased the difficulty. If you go in there with more than 5 people, the difficulty gets gradually harder. And we found that out real quick. We went to Merkgard and tried to fight the first Thorp there on the catwalk, and we got murdered, and we didn't know what was going on. And it took us a little bit to figure it out. We checked the forums, and of course, everyone else was out there complaining about it too. So I don't know, man. I understand the premise of what they're trying to do here. I get it. I'm not sure this is the appropriate thing, or maybe the right thing, or the best thing to do. I don't know, man. It was really a feels bad moment whenever we got in there and we realized we weren't going to be able to farm our watermark up. I don't know, man. The whole system just kind of feels a little bit bad right now. And the biggest qualm I think people had was that they just didn't tell anybody. They didn't say anything. So it might have just been an oversight, or not intentional to not put that in the patch notes. But it did suck whenever we go over there and we didn't know what to expect, and we didn't know the change happened. And then you go over there and you just get kind of worked over in Merkgard. It just wasn't a good experience. So I don't know, man. What do you think about the shadow changes, man?
Well, it's interesting, Bordy, because I thought one of the reasons that they kind of changed the way flagging works and the amount of luck that you get with flagging, we're going to talk a little bit about that more later. But I thought that was part of like helping to figure out these elite POIs, and what they did basically was mask that change and these shadow changes, which kind of suck, honestly. I thought, it will be exciting because there are some other people that typically want to flag those POIs, and I think normally get about 10 to 15 people to kind of get these done quickly. And we were very surprised when that happened the first time we tried after the patch. We were all hoping to get our, farm up our Void Gauntlet watermark, and that went south real quick. And one of the things about these open world elite areas, or just open world content in general, is it's very hard to prevent a second or third group from coming in with you and trying to get these done. Obviously, if both teams are flagged, you just kill the other team. But I mean, what happens again where, you come in flagged, they come in unflagged, but you're both tagging the mobs, and that kind of, scales it up to raid level. And then, that other group is just constantly griefing you, and they're not flagged, so you can't do anything about it. I think
Yeah.
the changes confuse me really. I would like to have seen them just leave it the way it was, but then add a maybe if 10% isn't enough, which I think it is. I think 10% luck is enough to make people want to flag by running these elite POIs. Just revert the shadow changes and just let us see what happens or what it looks like when people are getting 10% increased luck by flagging, because that might solve the issue, because that might stop the zerging, because what's going to happen is you're just going to constantly run into groups up there and maybe have some pretty cool open world PvP experiences, which is what they want, I think.
Yeah, I don't know if it would stop the zerging. I don't think you can ever stop the zerging in open world POIs like that, man. Yeah, exactly. So I don't know. I'm very confused about the changes too, because I don't think that the zerging is going to be something that can be stopped regardless. But it was an interesting change that came in, and it just really felt bad. It was not cool. It was not good changes, I don't think. So hopefully they will revert them. But you made some fantastic points there for sure, because I think what's going to happen now is going to have the reverse effect, where they're trying to make it a more enjoyable, more difficult experience, but instead of making it a more enjoyable, more difficult experience, it's now gonna be pushed over into the more trolly, more griefing experience. Because what you just said is exactly what's going to happen. There's going to be people that sit up there in groups of 5 unflagged, and they're just going to train mobs onto other people, and that's going to happen. It happens on our server all the time, man. People do that intentionally just because they think it's funny.
They did that before.
They did that before, and now it's going to be even worse. And that's not good, man. You're not going to be able to prevent large groups from entering into that type of zone, no matter how difficult you make it. That's not going to work, because you're going to enter in with your 5-man group with good intentions to go complete the content, and then somebody else is going to come in there intentionally to screw up your grind or screw up your run to get those, and that's just going to continuously happen over and over and over, which is going to lead to people being upset, lead to people being mad. It's going to lead to a lot of griefing, a lot of nonsense. And so you're right. They should just leave the elite POIs, and instead, in my opinion, man, this is my opinion. But I think what they should do, one of the problems in my mind why there's so many people going up there zerging these areas is because there's not enough ways to get up your watermark. Like, these POIs right here wouldn't be near as popular if this wasn't the only way to get up your watermark, right? This is the only viable way right now in the game to get your watermark up consistently. And until that changes, people are just going to zerg those areas down for that reason. And now what has happened is, now that they've reverted those changes, bro, all the people that are fresh 60s or people that aren't at 600 or even close are now getting shafted, dude, because all these other people got their watermark up in a much easier method than what's available right now in the game. And so now all these fresh 60s hitting feel real bad, because there's really no viable way to go get your watermark up right now. So in my opinion, they just need to increase methods in which you get your watermark up, so that people aren't just zerging the elite POIs all the time to do that. Now, would that stop it? Probably not, but it probably helped mitigate that some, because I know a lot of people in our group, dude, we wouldn't be running 40 deep in there. There'd be half of us would split off and go do Outpost Rush. Half of us would split off and go do dungeons. Half of us would split off and go do portals or whatever, if those were other viable options to get your watermark up. But right now it's not. So that's why people are zerging down those elite POIs. So instead of increasing the difficulty, just give us more options, man. I think that's the better thing to do in my mind, at least.
Yeah, you do want some versatility in in-game content, because really, I mean, I think part of the in-game grind in all MMOs is the gearing experience, getting yourself up to the highest gear score possible. And in New World, it is a chore for sure. Crafting seems to be the most viable way, but obviously there's been some wealth transfer issues where you can't transfer, we still can't transfer like trophies and stuff. And those trophies are really a big part in getting your crafting to a certain level, to where you're not going to, have a 1 in 20 chance to get a 600 every time you use your cooldown mats that take forever to get, or a ton of money to get. So yeah, it is, the end game is a little bit challenging right now. I would like to see them revert the scaling changes up there, as well as, like, to your point, add the some more different viable ways to increase your watermark on a consistent basis, which is the problem. I think the elite POIs are so farly ahead in efficiency as far as increasing your watermark goes. It's not even close, right? I can loot I can loot 30 chests in the time it takes me to like run maybe like 1 or 2 outpost rush, and in the outpost rush, sometimes you don't even get watermark upgrades, so kind of a feels bad.
Exactly.
Thing, yeah. So anything else to kind of chat about the elite POI situation?
No, I think we about covered it, man. I don't agree or understand the changes, and hopefully they change them back. And I don't think we're alone. I think the masses of the player base has spoken, and they didn't like the changes either. So it'll be interesting to see what they do moving forward. But no, I don't really have anything else to add.
All right. Well, the next thing is again the wealth transfer bug. There's another duping thing, and they had to shut them down again. And this is one of the things that it has been resolved, or mostly. There still is like a trophy issue because the duping was had to do with trophies. So those are still like furnitures and everything are not interchangeable. But there was they did shut down the economy, and you can definitely tell the disdain or the frustration in the player base when that happens, because a lot of people stop playing until it's fixed, basically. Because again, in a game like New World, with the trading post being one of the primary ways to get rid of the stuff in your inventory and to make obviously wealth to gain gold or to even craft, like it's nice to be able to get on there and buy charcoal or mats that it takes forever to farm by yourself versus just going ahead and buying them. It can be very frustrating for players. So we had another issue like that again this week.
Yeah, man. I hope I hope they can get those types of things under control, because it is pretty frustrating for players. I think that whenever these bugs come up, they do try and do a pretty good job at addressing them in a pretty timely manner. This one has went on a little bit longer with the furnishing. I think as of last night anyway, I haven't been on today, but as of last night, you still couldn't transfer over or trade furnishing items, which is pretty rough, because shout out to Smitty, our furnishing guy in the Revenant in our company. He hit 200 furnishing, and he has a lot of stuff that he wants to sell or do, and that just really has halted his progression a lot in terms of like generating wealth for his character after reaching such a hard milestone to reach, which is getting 200 furnishing. That's crazy. It's really hard to get 200 furnishing. He did it. He can't sell his stuff, and I feel pretty bad, bro, because he's got some trophies waiting on me that I can't get. So it's
True.
like it just kind of halts progression, and it's not fun. It's not a good thing to have happen to the game, and they know that. Obviously, I know that they're working to squash those bugs for sure. I'm sure they hate it more than we do, to be honest with you, because they know it's not a good look for their game to have this continuously happen. They know that it's hemorrhaging players whenever they do this, or at least players take a break and won't come back, like you said, until it's fixed, which sucks. So it is a feels bad thing, and hopefully I really hope they can get that under control moving forward, and we can not have all of these duping bugs and all of these issues with wealth transfer and whatever, because it just doesn't feel good. But again, I chalk it up to a lot of growing pains for the game. Doesn't make it acceptable. Doesn't mean that I am trying to make excuses for the problems that are happening, but there are growing pains that we have to go through, and I think this is just going to be one of them. And I think months down the road, we're not even going to be worried about this or think about this anymore.
Yeah, and again, I think it is something that obviously they've addressed in a pretty timely manner. They do tend to shut it off and get it fixed back up within a day or so. But the duping thing has always been a problem in MMOs for some reason. There's just when you can exchange items from player to player, there's always ways to kind of trick that system, I think. This isn't a new thing, and I just hope that they can get trophies back online and get everything working as usual. All right, man. Well, that about does it for the other news here. Let's hop right into our main topic, which is Into the Void. All right. Well, again, guys, we got a massive New World update. This is considered to be 1.1, which is, I think, the patch that everybody was looking forward to. And, of course, the main thing in the update was the Void Gauntlet. We've been teased this for a long time, Bordy, and it's finally here. My weapon of choice, the Void Gauntlet. Why don't you tell people about the addition to New World?
I mean, the Void Gauntlet's pretty cool. I think we may have covered this a little bit in the last episode, or did we? The abilities, I can't remember. But I'll just give my opinion on it, I guess. I think the Void Gauntlet's pretty neat. I think it's going to shake up the meta a little bit. There's some abilities that are going to be really good in like sieges and group play with the pull that you lay on the ground. I can't remember the name of that ability. I'm sure you do since you've been using it a lot. But like that pull that you lay down that gives you increased damage and does damage to players in there. Oblivion, thank you. We've seen that used a lot in Outpost Rush here recently. I think that's going to get utilized in wars a whole lot. I think it's a very powerful ability. There's a lot of other cool abilities there for the support healer style of gameplay, and then some interesting builds coming out that really surround themselves around the Void Blade, which I don't know how much of a fan I am of them, but overall, I think that the Gauntlet's cool, man. I've been enjoying watching people use it. I don't really use it. It doesn't really fit my play style very much. I will eventually have a build with it at some point just to mess around with it, but it doesn't really fit my play style. So I'm going to let you talk about it a little bit more, Reg, because I know you've been playing with it a lot. You have a build with it. You're enjoying it. It really fits what you like to do in a video game. So what is your overall opinion of the Void Gauntlet so far?
I think it's cool. It's a cool weapon, very versatile. I like the obviously the idea of having another focused scaling weapon in the game. I do think that they put a lot of attention to detail, the way your character taps and your abilities. It's just a really cool weapon. The Void Blade aesthetically is awesome, dude. The way your character kind of grabs the ring and draws a blade from it is sick. They put a lot of attention into this weapon. Hopefully this is what we have to look forward to in the future as they add more and more weapons to the game. Overall, I think it's a great, a great weapon for utility. And hopefully they'll add more stuff like this soon. Because obviously with one weapon, a new weapon, most people are just going to equip it and get it to 20. So you'll see a lot of Void Gauntlets out in the world. And that may not be a negative thing. But obviously, right now we are seeing a lot of Void Gauntlets out in the open. But overall, dude, I'm just happy that they're adding new weapons. I'm glad it was a magic weapon this time because we do have quite a bit of physical damage weapons. So it's cool to have one more magic weapon for us magic boys. And then, overall, dude, I'm glad to finally have it in my hands and have it in the game on my character. I maxed it out to level 20 within 24 hours, of course, and I'm having fun, dude. I've probably tried it with every magical weapon combination there is, and really it's a nice weapon to play around with for sure. We'll see where it lands in the meta. I do think for sure the best place for it right now is just on the back bar of a healer, or potentially with a life staff. But we'll see how things go. I do the Void Gauntlet Ice Gauntlet build in PvP, and I have a ton of fun with it. You can basically shut people down with it, and it's fun.
Yeah, I was going to ask you that because a lot of people, I've been getting the question a whole lot, like what's best to pair with the Void Gauntlet? Whenever I'm streaming it, we get that all the time. I'm sure you probably get it as well. So in your opinion, what are you said Void Gauntlet Ice Gauntlet, Void Gauntlet Life Staff is probably the most optimal combo right now if you're going kind of a support healer build. But what are some other options? If somebody's looking to play the Void Gauntlet, you want to get in there and you want to try this thing out, what are like some of the optimal options you would recommend for somebody to try the Void with?
Yeah, I haven't had a chance to test statistically or damage wise, but I do think your best bet initially is just the Life Staff Void Gauntlet. I think it's the most logical pairing. It does add a lot. I just put up a build guide or a build video on our YouTube channel covering a Void Gauntlet or Life Staff healing build, and I do think it's just a very powerful combination. It gives you a lot more healing accessibility, more AoE heals, obviously more support, more stamina regen, which is great for like tanks and for fights that need you to be mobile. And again, I do think that having another focus weapon in the game is a good thing because focus is basically the only use for the life staff. So now we have some changes there, but I am trying to work on some sort of damage build. I did use a Void Gauntlet Fire Staff on our Genesis run this week. I was the only person in the group, I think, running Oblivion. And so, me and the other mage in our group were getting a lot of increased DPS from having that Oblivion pool underneath us. And obviously there's interesting ways to kind of manipulate the Glimpse of the Void key passive to where you can keep that Oblivion pull up underneath you pretty frequently. So yeah, it's fun, dude. I'm really enjoying it. I'm continuing to work on builds. I'll keep posting the builds on the YouTube channel and on the website and stuff. But overall, I think it's great, dude. I'm glad to have another weapon like this. And you know me, dude. I'm all about like warlocks and necromancers and stuff like that. So this kind of fits right into my vibe, so to say. All right, dude. Well, the next one we have here is the weapon balance changes. Now they did make a lot of changes here to the meta, to the changes to the the weapons and stuff like that. So we're gonna go through those on here, dude. Overall, I think the meta's shifted quite a bit here. I think the most interesting one, dude, is the classic Great Axe Warhammer build got a buff, dude, and you can speak more on this. What do you think about them buffing probably one of the stronger builds in the game already?
I mean, it's an interesting thing to do for sure. I think the Great Axe does pump out quite a lot of damage. Maybe it does need a little bit of a nerf. I don't know why the Great Axe continues to get so much love. I think the Warhammer in general, I don't know how big of a buff the Warhammer got, in all honesty, because what they're trying to do with the Warhammer is push people to use the other side of the tree. Some of the abilities on the other side of the tree do quite a lot of damage. Like Armor Breaker does quite a lot of damage now, and so that side of the tree was just very underutilized. I don't know that you're going to see that side of the tree get utilized much more in PvP than you do now. I think you'll see it get utilized in PvE more. I have seen people in Outpost Rush running around with Armor Breaker, etc. But I do still think the other side of the tree there's just so much CC on the other side of the tree, like. It's really good in group PvP settings like Outpost Rush, etc. It's even still really good in open world PvP. I've been fighting people while I'm flagged with that same build, and I haven't moved over to Armor Breaker yet, and it still seems just very strong. So I think the Warhammer in general, I don't know that the buffs to that side of the tree are really going to change the meta using those weapons very much, other than maybe in some PvE stuff maybe. But PvP, I still think people are going to use the Crowd Crusher side of the Warhammer tree regardless, because the CC is just it's just too good, man. And then as far as the axe goes, the Great Axe is kind of interesting, man. The Whirlwind buff is like whatever. They added Grit to Whirlwind. I think that really actually needed to be done.
The ability was terrible without it. Yeah,
it was useless. It was nobody was ever going to use it, and I still don't think many people are going to use it. Maybe in PvE, I think people will use it. Yeah, like farming down mobs or maybe just leveling the weapon. It'll be used for that. In expeditions, it'll probably be useful for that. It still is just kind of an underwhelming ability, even with Grit added onto it. So it's not the greatest. I think the biggest change for the Great Axe is the 0.25 second stun root. Sorry, no, it's not a stun. You get 0.25 second root whenever you pull somebody with a Great Axe, and it applies to all your pulls. So now whenever you reap someone like a light armor user, you reap them, man, you can't get away anymore. So as soon as you pull them with the reap, they're stunned, and what that does is that gives you enough time to pull off your spin, which you get later on in the reap tree. So now you pull and you do a lot of damage, and it just is some additional CC and damage that you just didn't have before. Used to, whenever you'd pull somebody in PvP, you'd pull them, and as soon as you would pull them, they would just immediately dodge roll out because they knew they could get away and not get hit by that second swing or the spin from the reap. So that was a pretty big change, I think, for the Great Axe, and it was quite a big buff for it. And so now you have more damage, more options. It's kind of interesting. As a Great Axe Hammer user, though, I will say, if you're fighting people that know how to kite you around and you're all melee, you're still going to die, man. It doesn't matter. Like you can't catch people. People that are using the bow and they know what they're doing with the bow and they're in light armor, they can still get away. It happens all the time in Outpost Rush. There are some really good ranged users that you just have to learn how to play your class. And I think that's maybe a little bit of part of the problem with these people complaining about how strong it is. I'm not saying that the Great Axe Hammer is not strong and doesn't need a nerf. It probably does. There's some things on there that probably need to be addressed. I'm not vying for it to be like it will stay where it is or anything like that. But what I am saying is that a lot of people complain about it because they get caught in the CCs and then they die. Well, and I understand, like an Outpost Rush, et cetera, whenever there's group play going on, you do get chain CC'd by those things, and you literally cannot get away. So I'm not talking about that. I think there probably does need to be some sort of diminishing returns on CCs to allow you to get away. I think some sort of system like that does need to be implemented, because getting locked down in CC from this person using Shockwave, and then as soon as that person's Shockwave wears off, this next person uses Shockwave, and then that wears off the next person, and you can't get away ever. Like that's not a good feeling. I'm talking about like in open world PvP type settings, or 1v1 type settings, or whatever, or even just whenever there's one great axe hammer user in the group, you should be a good enough range player to dodge out of the CC. If you get stuck in the CC, man, you ought to be punished. That's how the game works, man. It's a very skill-based game, and that's the strength of that build. Is it CC? You CC somebody, then you kill them. That's the whole strategy, because you don't have a ton of mobility other than your charge with the great axe. So once that's burned, you have to wait for that to go off a cooldown again to use it again. So it's not like you can just catch up with people like crazy. If you are a good, skilled, which is what the game revolves around, man, this game is a skill-based game. You should, as a ranged user, be able to kite somebody around and not get stuck in the CC. If you are close enough as a ranged caster or a ranged bow user to get stuck in the CC, then you shouldn't be there. Like, you're out of position. Now, I know there's exceptions to that rule, but overall, I see a lot of people complaining about that, and it's like, man, I don't know that the problem is the power of the weapons. They are strong. Again, I'm not sitting here saying they're not incredibly powerful and shouldn't be nerfed. They probably should in some manner, but I think overall people are so used to having on heavy armor and running with the resilient perk and all that stuff that was bugged, and they were unkillable as ranged users, which made range just ridiculous. So there was a lot of forgiveness there, right? Whenever you're in light armor, or nobody ran light armor, so you're in heavy armor as a ranged user, you never die. Like you could get killed, you could get caught by a great axe hammer user, you wouldn't die. Now these people are dying because they're out of position. They're not used to playing skilled battle, and so they get out of position, they get pulled in CC, they die, and then they complain that the great axe hammer is too strong. Well, I don't know, man. I don't know. That's my 2 cents about it. All right, if you're a ranged user, just stay in position, man. You won't have to worry about it.
Yeah, I mean, I just found it. It is I would say the most popular build in the game, the Great Axe Warhammer. And I just found it interesting that it got a buff a little bit there. I went
on a bit of a rant there. I understand.
You went full dad mode, dude.
Dude, okay.
Hey. You got to preach, sometimes. The life staff changes, I think, are pretty interesting here, Bordy. And you talked a little bit about the people that felt invincible. Well, light staff got pretty big nerfs to the weapon and the ability, but they fixed the equip load problems that weren't giving the healing buff, and they actually gave an increased healing buff. So now, if you're in light armor or at the light weight, you don't have to wear all light armor, then you're going to get a 30% healing buff. So this is kind of pushed a lot of healers to a light armor setup, and now they're experiencing what we like to call death. Something that they never experienced before. So, Bordy, what do you think about the life staff changes in the recent patch?
Man, they're pretty interesting. I'll tell you, the meta of having these heavy armor healers that are unkillable is not a fun meta. It's not a fun meta, man. Especially whenever you make a play on a healer and you get to the back lines as a melee range, it doesn't matter. Whenever you're targeting their healer and you make a great play to go back there and target them, no one else is around, and you have a chance to kill them, and you put out enough damage that should kill their healer to turn kind of the tides of the battle because you made a great play, but you don't kill the healer because they're invincible. That's not good, man. That's bad gameplay, and it's not fun. So I think the changes are heading in the right direction. Did they do too much? I don't know yet. I think it might still be a little too early to tell. I kind of like the changes, though, because, again, just like I preached about the whole light armor range users, you should, as a healer, there's a level of skill involved as a healer that you should have to participate in as well. If you are a light armor healer, you should be aware of where you're at on the battlefield, man. And then there's a degree of which you should be working together with your group to have them pill for you, etc. And if you're playing solo and outpost rush or whatever, you just have to be aware of your surroundings and where you are, and you're going to die. It's just part of it. You're going to get targeted. You're going to die. It's kind of how that should play. I think New World is such a skill-based game that some of these mechanics need to be in the game. Like, you need to know where you're at on the battlefield, just like League of Legends or some other MOBA, man. And you can compare that to Outpost Rush, because Outpost Rush is very MOBA-esque, right? Like, if you're a squishy DPS in League of Legends, like if you're like a bot lane AD carry sitting down there and you get jumped on by one of the assassins and you don't have someone pilling for you, or you're out of position and you're not far enough away from them, you die instantly, and then you cost your team the win potentially because you die. That's how it should be, man. You should know where you're at. You should know your positioning. You have to have these types of gameplay mechanics in the game. Like the heavy armor healer that couldn't die, those people literally just went and stood on the point in sieges and never died. They just sat there and laid down their heals, took a lot of damage, never died. There was no point in even targeting a healer. Well, now I like the shift of the meta where they have to be a little bit more cognizant of where they are on the map. That's how it should be in my opinion.
Absolutely.
So, I think I may get some hate from the healers, and I may get some hate from the ranged users here with all of my rants, but I just feel like there's a level of skill that should be involved in playing the game, and you just have to learn your positioning. It's those things you have to learn and figure out as you go, and it may be a little rough at first, the transition for some of these people, but you shouldn't be. Healers shouldn't be invincible, man. It's not fun. That gameplay is not fun for anyone. I can't even imagine it being that fun for healers, standing there and just dropping puddles of heals and taking all kinds of damage. And it's just like, dude, it's just not a fun mechanic.
Well, I think
so. I'm glad the changes are in there.
Yes, we the thing about it is, and to your point, there's got to be pros and cons to each of these setup or builds that are in the game. Otherwise, you have just like a meta shift. And people just always want to play the paladin build, which is life staff hammer or life staff whatever, and having the healer get the best of all worlds, which was like heavy armor. They get the CC of hammer, and they get to heal themselves back to full with like basically no effort whatsoever. That's a little bit toxic. Now, I think healers in a 1v1 situation probably shouldn't die a whole lot. If you're decent at healing, you should not lose. I'm not saying you should win a 1v1, but you should probably not lose one, because you need to have enough healing to keep someone up. That's the whole point of your job. But when it came down to, healers being able to tank, 5 or 6 people on them without much effort, that's not necessarily good gameplay. So the life staff did need change, and I like the way they went about it. I like that they put it on the armor now. So basically you have to wear light armor to get to the healing level where you were before. Now, I have heard reports of people still using heavy armor with the life staff and saying it's pretty decent. So maybe even further adjustments need to be made. But the life staff did take a nerf. And one of the things that really I think is the worst change to the life staff is the 25 meter max range thing. If the targeting system wasn't bad enough in the game, now they limited the target range. So now not only do you have to worry about your target being like targetable, like you have to look at them or do whatever you need to do to scroll to your target to which one needs to be healed. Now you have to make sure they're in range too, Bordy. So just some weird mechanics to healing in this game that kind of make it not as pleasurable as I think it could be. Yeah, I would agree with that for sure. So Hatchet, they got the throwing buffs. So basically the best thing to talk about right now. You get to basically, there's a lot of buffs here for the throwing side, which no one was using at all. Yeah, and I don't know that a lot of people are still going to use the throwing side, man. Berserk's just still too good. Like, I don't know why you would use it. I think maybe in some PvE instances or something, maybe. I think they did try to increase the rate in which the disease works so that people's try to mitigate healing in that way too. That's an effort to push towards that side a little bit, which is good. But I don't know. We'll see. I would like to see some interesting throwing builds. I have yet to see any, especially in PvP. I have yet to see any interesting throwing builds, and maybe there will be in PvE, because PvE, when you're expeditions, man, playing a melee DPS in an expedition kind of sucks. It's not really too fun because of all the body blocking and all the things that happen. It makes it harder on your tank, makes it a little harder on your healer. And I think being a ranged DPS in expeditions is kind of the way to go. So maybe we'll see some interesting throwing hatchet builds there somehow. I don't know that it really is going to have a super great place in PvP, other than still maybe the disease, which I think a lot of people were running anyway. So we'll see. I don't know if that's going to be super successful or not. But I do like the attempt that they're making to try to push people into these different directions and try to utilize the trees they have there now, because they recognize they're a little underwhelming and no one's using them. So I think it's a good change, but I don't know if it's going to work. Yeah, I think that definitely needs to be looked at when, abilities on weapons are being used at all. I do think it's probably a viability issue, so they tried to buff that, fix that as well. They tried this with a couple other abilities in these other weapons. I don't want to break these down all the way on this podcast. You guys can go look at them over at New World Fans, all the changes to all these weapons. But overall, dude, I think the changes, it's just good to see them adjusting the meta like this. It does a bit, and with the mage nerfs and everything, and the hammer buffs, it does seem like they were balancing the weapons to before they made the armor changes. So it's kind of a weird patch to make both of the changes in one. You know what I mean? In one patch is just kind of an interesting. Position. We'll see how the meta shakes out. We played a lot of Outpost Rust last night. Overall, I think it feels fine. Most of the changes are pretty good overall, I'd say.
I think so too. I do feel a little bad for Firestaff users though, because Firestaff did get hit quite hard. I think more so than the other ranged weapons. Maybe I think a lot of people were complaining about Ice Gauntlet, but I know you've been using Ice Gauntlet a lot, and it seems like Ice Gauntlet Outpost Rush is still doing fine. I think Ice Gauntlet is still strong. I Firestaff to get hit pretty hard though, and I can tell a difference in the amount of damage I take now from the Firestaff abilities now versus then, and Firestaff's not near as scary as it was. So it's I do feel bad for those ranged users for sure, because Firestaff did take quite a big hit.
Well, it's interesting because musket and bow have kind of the metas will shifted a little bit for ranged users, and meta and bow seem to be a little bit more popular. Just because of the spike damage and Outpost Rush. But I do think mages still have a place in Siege because of how good their AoE is. So we will see. But that's kind of, if you guys, again, want to hear the full changes, you can go check out the website or the official patch notes. There were a ton of different ones. I don't want to waste our entire podcast or spend our entire podcast covering the weapon changes. But just know there were a lot of balancing changes in the meta. So new enemy types. We got the, I'm going to make sure I say this, Varangian.
Varangian, I think is how you say it.
Okay, sure.
I think I don't really know. I'm guessing
that we got those people in the game. It's interesting, dude, because this is a new mob type. We tested the resistances; they're completely different than any other mobs. So that kind of shows us that they're not part of one of the existing families. And they are now invading the land of Eternum, which seems odd, dude, because a lot of people seem to end up here on accident or without a ship. They kind of get shipwrecked and are left as a refugee. But these people seem to have a purpose because they're showing up in groves and setting up camps and everything like that. So what do you think about the Varangian enemy type?
I think they're pretty cool, man. I like them. I kind of like the premise of them. If you haven't seen the point of interests out there, we do have them listed on New World Fans on our map on newworld-map.com. Go check them out. But there's 3 that I know of right now, 3 locations. They're all lower level, but they are pretty cool enemies. And I like the premise behind them. I like the way that their ship is kind of crashed on Eternum there in First Light. It just looks really cool. The little camps they have set up there, and the way they have kind of the fence built with the spikes and stuff. It looks really neat. I like them. I think it's a nice introduction. They do have some different weapons too. They have some maces with some shields. They have some different abilities, so it's nice to have that variety in there, especially for new players joining. It'll just give that leveling process and the process of going through kind of checking out all of the enemy types a little bit more variety, which is good. I know that's one of the criticisms New World has received is the lack of enemy variety, and so they introduced a lot in this patch. And I think it's good stuff.
Yes, they did add to your point, they did add a lot of new enemy subtypes within the existing enemy families. I've seen a couple of them. They're dope looking, dude. The detail to the animations and the abilities of these mobs are next level. Hopefully they continue to expand upon this as they work on New World. I think it's a great place to do so, obviously, because a lot of the times you're fighting the same mob types over and over again throughout the leveling process. So it's good that they added these at a lower level, but I do anticipate seeing them in higher levels as the game progresses. Real quick, this is a minor change, but I think one that kind of touches on the green topic of mounts. They did add fast running, a 10% increase of speed on pass, Bordy. Now, a lot of people saw this as kind of a slight to the people that wanted mounts. But what do you think about this change so far in the game?
I think it's good, man. I've been enjoying it. It gives you a reason to kind of go get on the road and run the path. I like it. And it does cancel whenever you engage in PvP and it's not active in sieges or outpost rush or anything like that. So you don't get an advantage in PvE or PvP. And if you take damage from mobs, even your bonus or your haste bonus goes away. So I like it, man. I like being able to run a little bit faster and get from point A to point B a little bit quicker while I'm farming or whatever. It's been quite nice to have it in the game. The mount discussion, man, that's probably for a completely different podcast. I think we've talked about it multiple times, so we won't get into that. But overall, for the faster running on pass, I think it's a fine change. The way they implemented it, a little bit of additional fast travel that we get there, I like it, man.
It's a nice stopgap. It's a nice like tie over till the point where we get them. I mean, why not, right? I think it could be maybe a touch faster even. But yeah, overall, I think it's a good change. Linked trading post, dude. This is a big change for the economy of the game. What has been your experience so far now with these recent changes?
Yeah, so I've said it multiple times before, and I think I've stated it on the podcast before that I was very on the fence about these changes in the beginning, but I think they're good. I think overall for the health of the game, I think these changes are very, very good with the direction the game has been heading and the things that they're doing. I think overall this makes a lot of sense, and so far it's been very convenient, which I like that a lot. I like being able to stand in Everfall and buy something from Ebonscale or vice versa. It's very nice. It's a very nice change. It's a welcome change, I think, and it does kind of cut out some of the trading that was going on, but I don't think that ever reached its full potential in New World. Trying the localized trading, I think it was happening to a degree. I don't think it ever reached its full potential, and with the way the game was going and the way things are set up, I don't know that it would have ever been super beneficial, or I don't know that would have ever reached its potential like some other games that have localized trading. So I think this change was good. It also, what they did ultimately is that Everfall and Windsward, man, we all know those are the rich places, right? You own those places, you get rich from all of the trading, all the house ownership, all of that stuff. So it's nice to have the wealth spread out a little bit amongst Eternum, because now it makes owning some other territories a little bit more viable. Not quite as much still, because you still see people putting up items for sale in those hotspot items like Everfall and Windsward. I think those will still be your money-making territories, but at least now the other territories, you have a reason to own them. Because you will get at least a little bit of income from there. So I think it's a good change overall. I think it will be great for the longevity and the health of the game.
Well, and to your point, I think now as a company, you can kind of make a point to kind of, funnel all your economy stuff through your territory and at least make the taxes off of that as you sell, and you can kind of, again, be more, I guess, open to selling things in different markets, because sometimes, these places were never visited or not visited on a very frequent place. So there's no way to make money from trade tax or anything like that. You're basically banking on property tax, and like in areas like First Light. I mean, who wants to own a house in First Light when there's literally nothing else there, to bring your attention to? So I think, this should help out, bring at least some viability to the other territories. We'll have to see what they do in the future, because that will be an ongoing thing, is how to make sure each of these territories are at least somewhat desirable to own, because otherwise you might just see a war in Windsward and Everfall every other day or whatever, and then that'll be it. I like the changes here. I think that this is better for the game as a whole, and we'll see how they continue to improve upon that. Finally, crafting changes, Bordy. I think the hyssop thing is one of the bigger things in the Arcana thing. Obviously, now you need hyssop. You need to create what are the items called, Bordy? I need to go check real quick.
They're called alkahests.
Alkahest, yeah. You got to create alkahest for each potion. So now hyssop has a value, which it needed. I'm glad that that's in the game. So yeah, if you haven't read those changes, definitely go check those out. But the big one that I thought was maybe not big enough one is the stone cutting, man. It's dang, dude. I'm just so on the fence about the tuning orbs now, especially I thought the changes would make them significantly easier to get, but they're still a gigantic pain in the rear end. to even get a hold of, man. And it's like, this makes, I don't know, man. It makes, like, to your point earlier about, having the watermark grind in the elite PoE areas, POI areas, the only viable way to get it, like this kind of the tuning orb system is one of the reasons that I think, expeditions aren't a viable way to do it.
Yeah, I would agree, man. I think that I am not on the fence about tuning orbs, by the way. I think they should be removed, if I'm being perfectly honest here. I think the tuning orbs are not a good system at all for these dungeons. I think we've talked about this before too, that we want, like, tuning orbs would be fine for the mutations, probably as a gateway to enter into those to get better gear or whatever they're going to do with the mutations. Those are fine. I think that adds an additional layer to the game, but getting into these initial expeditions and having to run them it doesn't feel good. Maybe whenever they add mutations to the game, maybe they'll adjust the tuning orb method, maybe. But I am now kind of, after we've played this game for a while, and this may be an unpopular opinion too, I don't know, but I am now of the camp that adding in a group finder into the game, because right now people are having a hard time finding people to go do the expeditions with, man.
Well, they need a tuning orb. That's the problem.
They need a tuning orb, and just finding people to group with is just tough. I think having a group finder in the game would be great for the health of the game. I think it'd be really good. It would allow people to find a pub group to go do some of these things with. So I wish they would just get rid of tuning orbs, add in a group finder. I know that's kind of veering into the kind of, we're like other MMOs now. Yeah, well, it is a theme park. The game has transitioned into a theme park MMO. It's kind of both. It's interesting. There's not loading screens whenever you move over to zone. There's some things you can do that are sandbox-ish. But ultimately, the game has transitioned more into a theme park, which is fine.
Yeah,
it's fine. But because of that, I think having a group finder and having, it's players like convenience, man. Not that things shouldn't be difficult. Some things in the game should be difficult, but little quality of life things like this are more of an annoyance than an added layer of difficulty that makes the gameplay good, right? Like, having the tuning orbs is not something that makes the gameplay good, makes the grind to go get a tuning orb good so you can go run this dungeon. Right now, it's just not, it's not working that way, man. Like, the tuning orbs, I hope they ultimately remove them from these expeditions.
Well, you got to get to stone cutting level 200 if you want to create these keys by yourself, which is a big grind. And then you look at the amount of material that you have to get one key, and then if you want to run these once a day, you are going to have to do that grind every day, dude. And I think that's where the real problem comes in. Is like, yeah, if this crafted me like a week's worth of tuning orbs, or maybe this was on a cooldown, you know what I mean? Like, yeah, I can only craft one a day, and which there already is something like that in the game that prevents you from crafting more than that a certain day. But the problem is it's so hard to get your daily cooldown that it's like, you basically have to focus the entire day around getting your cooldown taken care of. And one of the things that I think is tough, dude, is when you're looking at, like, okay, well, I want to get my Asmodeum cooldown, I want to get my Phoenix Weave cooldown, I want to get my tuning orb cooldown. Well, to do all that on your own is quite a bit of work every day if you want to be optimal. And I understand that they don't expect people to do that every day, but as a player, I mean, it kind of feels bad when you can't use those cooldowns as much as you'd want to. And I know that that's part of the game design and everything, but it really is when you're locking away something, which I like the expedition system, when you're locking something like people want to do behind such a massive time sink to only do it one time, and maybe your group, like, you have trouble getting a group together, and so maybe you take a few people from pubs, and then the group doesn't go well, and then you lose your orb. You don't get any loot. You don't get to kill the main boss. You can't get through Genesis, and so then you got to regrind that up to try it again. And it's just I don't know, man. I think there's some more tweaking to be done. If they could take some of the work out of that, I think it would be great, because right now it just feels like a really big burden to players that want to do expeditions.
Yeah, I would agree, man. The system needs to be reworked a little bit. They need to adjust some things for sure. And I would be interested to see how many people are actually running expeditions right now. Like, how many players are actually going through and running like Amrine or Starstone or the Depths or some of these lower level dungeons Like, how many people are doing those things? Probably not many. Number one, there's not mutations in the game, which I know they're going to add later that'll help rerun that stuff. But number two, like the gated areas, even like Garden of Genesis or Lazarus, I'd be curious how many players are running those, because I bet not many people are running them in proportion to players doing other things in the game. I bet the dungeons or the expeditions are not performing well in terms of the amount of players wanting to do them right now, because there's other options to go do other things that aren't time gated, etc. So how do you want to spend your time in the game? Do you want to spend your time in the game grinding up a orb for however many hours just so you can go run it's not good, man. So I don't think the expeditions are getting utilized like they should. That's just me guessing. I don't know what the numbers are. Maybe they are. I don't know. But to me, it just doesn't seem like it's a good system, and I hope they adjust it at some point.
Yeah, we will see. But yeah, you'd like to see, that. Again, you painting the picture of in-game and wanting to do Outpost Rush, which is challenging, especially if you have a low-pop server. Expeditions, which is challenging if you don't have stone cutting at 200 and you can't get, the key made every day. You want to do elite POIs, but you can't either find a 5-man group that's capable of doing them, or maybe you have a company that wants to do them, but then you keep getting griefed. You can see where people are starting to get a little bit frustrated with the in-game and New World. I don't think that's a stretch at all. And the reason is I think a combination of all these things where, to get your watermark up, because why even have a 600 gear score watermark or like a gear score cap on the game if people can't get there, which is I think a big problem right now. I don't know of, unless you're in Void Bent or something like that. I mean, I don't know of any other way to get up to 600 at this point because of a lot of recent like trophy bugs and not being trophy exchange, and then the watermark system being a grind and everything like that. I think, it is frustrating for a large percentage of the player base. I'm not saying everybody. Obviously, people like Seth Fair or whatever that have 600 gear score. I'm not going to say that. But like, general players are finding it very challenging to get up to the max gear score.
Yeah, whereas if you could just go spam dungeons to get it up there, I'm sure a lot of people would like that. And people, the MMO players love expeditions and dungeons, man. There's definitely like a very large demographic of players that would just spam those things over and over and over because they like that type of gameplay. And unfortunately, that's not something it's in the game right now. Like you're not just going to be able to go do
barrier. Unfortunately,
there's a massive barrier. So if you're one of those people that just wants to go grind dungeons, and there's a lot of those people. They like to just go in and do PvE stuff and grind the dungeons out for fun. There's a lot of people that like to do that. Well, right now, that's not an option in New World, man. You're not going to get on New World and just go do the PvE thing. It's just not going to happen, man. And that's a problem. And the expeditions are fun. They're good. I think the expeditions are fun and good. They're just the gated, the way they have them gated is not.
What do you think about, and right now they're bind on pickup. What do you think about the idea? I think one of the quick solutions is just make them bind on equip. Just let people sell them on the auction
orbs?
house. Yeah. The tuning orbs. What'd I say?
Yeah, I mean, no, you said, I was just making sure you're talking about the orbs. Yeah, the orbs, I think that'd probably be okay, because then that would be also additional way for people to make money, because I think people would go buy them. I think a lot of people would buy them. Go run the expedition, get some money, come back, buy another one, go run it again. But even that,
and
man,
then maybe you just get a lockout for that day. You just like, okay, well, you ran Garden of Genesis this day, so you can't run it again or something. Because I know they want to be sure that people can't just spam it. But again, like you said, I think people like doing that. Do you really want to prevent people like that enjoy that kind of gameplay? Right?
Yeah, but why not? Why not though? Yeah. Why do you want? That's what I'm having a hard time wrapping my mind around. Is why do you not want people running them a lot? Is it because you don't want people to get the gear in there? Well, the problem there is that people aren't gear score 600 anyway. So to get up to gear score 600, even if you're running dungeons and spamming dungeons all the time to get there, you spam your dungeons to get there, and you're still only getting minimal gear score increases every time you're in. It's still going to take you forever to get the 600 to get the drops you want. And then, it would take you forever. And then you're going to have to go back in there to try to get them at 600 gear score. So I'm having a hard time wrapping my mind around why. Like, why do we want these dungeons gated? What is the overall design choice or purpose in making these dungeons be a gated activity to perform? I can't wrap my mind around it. I don't know why. Because with the watermark score the way it is, with the gear score the way it is, I don't know. I don't understand it. I don't understand the system, man. I really don't.
Yeah, and
the only thing. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
I was just going to say real quick. I think one of the concerns is now currently one of the best crafted pieces of gear are crafted through the replicas of the expeditions. Now, but you know what I mean. It makes Void Bent a little bit less valuable, but. I mean, that's also going to take you forever to grind that up and roll that piece of armor that you're looking for. That's like perfect. That's level 600 gear score. So yeah, and I can't think of any viable reason why we can't be able to do these on a regular basis.
Yeah, maybe somebody else does, and if you do, then by all means let us know and give us your feedback, because I don't know why. The only thing I can think of, man, and this is about to be a very touchy subject, so I don't want to go into it too deep. Is the cash shop, bro. That's it. And I hate to even bring that up. I hate to bring it up, but when you think about it, like it seems like it's an item that they would want to tie into the cash shop to sell. And that could be a potential reason why they're in the game. I don't know that for sure. I have no idea. Maybe not, maybe so. Yeah, it's a touchy subject. I don't like talking about the cash shop particularly because that's going to trigger some people real hard. And I don't think that'll happen now for sure. Like after the backlash of the cash shop in the beginning, I don't think that's going to happen. But all I'm saying is that before all that backlash and when they were designing the cash shop and designing these things and putting them in the game, it's like maybe they implemented that for that reason. That's the only thing I can think of, man. And I don't know that that's even true or has any bearing whatsoever. That's the only like viable thing I can think of that would make you want to have this system in the game, because otherwise it doesn't make sense.
If you want to hemorrhage players, then sure. But that's not going to be. Yeah, that can't happen.
Yeah, people would quit. But I think they found that. See, that's what I mean. I think they found that out really quickly after the whole cash shop debacle in the beginning. Like there was so much backlash from it that I don't think they would be silly enough to add something like tuning orbs in the cash shop now, right? Like that would be awful. People would just leave. People would be done. They'd leave. That would be a huge mistake on their part. And I know I wouldn't be happy about it for sure. I don't think any player would be happy about that. So hopefully that's not something that's going to happen.
It's not. I mean, there's just no way. All right. Well, Bordy, that about ties up the Into the Void update or wrap up. So that leads us to our company of the week. All right, dude. So the first company of the week we have is the Nederlandstalige.
All right, so the first one we have here is called the #1 Dutch-speaking company, PVX/social. Now, this is translated because I think what was on here was in Dutch, so we use Google Translate to translate over their posting. So if anything gets lost in translation, you have to forgive us. But it does say the #1 Dutch-speaking company, and it says, "Good day, everyone. I'd like to introduce you to the largest 570-plus member Dutch and Belgian company and community for New World. The aim is to bring together as many Dutch and Belgian players as possible and to ensure that a community can arise." They have a link to their Discord there as well. So if you're interested in being a part of the Dutch or Belgian community, this might be a fantastic place for you to be, a good company to join. So that is a company #1. Company #2 is called LOTD. It says they are in Locuta, the server Locuta in NA East. Their faction is Covenant. It says they're seeking more players, 45 plus, to help storm town sieges, forts, pillage dungeons, and it says you get the idea. If a great night sounds like kicking back and causing mayhem with your buddies, then this may be the place for you. So it says they're a PvP guild, but they do also engage in some PvX activities as well. It says you're going to expect organized PvP, some spontaneous PvP. They're going to run a few dungeons, and they're going to invite you in if you want to do some crafting as well, but they're primarily focused on PvP, so it seems. So go check them out as well, LOTD. If you're into PvP and you're on the NA East Locuta server, go check them out.
All right, and we're very thankful for those two companies using New World Fans to promote their companies and their Discords. Go check those out, guys. Again, we're appreciative to all our Patreon. Thank you so much for your support. And yeah, that about does it, dude. Episode 94 in the books. We got a special guest on episode 95, so you'll have to stay tuned to that. We'll be announcing that this week, getting the details wrapped up now. And yeah, hopefully, guys, we're coming up on episode 100. We're still working on people for that episode as well. So hopefully we'll have more news there. Again, guys, thank you so much for listening. We really appreciate it. And we'll see you on another episode of New World to Go.